But today another hashtag popped up, I believe from one of the teams from Florida, and the hashtag was hashtag where is Elon? So I think we might be able to answer that question for you right now.
Hey, so I'm amazed by the fact that there's been such an outpouring of enthusiasm and talent for the Hyperloop competition. I've just been talking backstage with Steve, and some of the designs I think are really amazing. I mean, it's like, what we're really intended to do with the Hyperloop was really to spur interest in new forms of transportation. And I think, I'm starting to think this is really gonna happen. So, yeah. You know, the level of attention, it's clear that the public and the world wants something new. And I think you guys are gonna bring it to them. So, congratulations. Yeah. And we're thinking about the sort of competition that'll take place later this year, perhaps in the summer. And the goal is going to be to actually come up with something that can ultimately be used. So we want it to be something that if you would extend even though it's a sort of 1.5 kilometer track, if you were to extend that to hundreds of kilometers, that the system would still work. And then also, I think we want to introduce sort of ideas or have suggestions and ideas for how the track should be built. Like, how do you do a multi-hundred kilometer track and make the thing work? Because we want to bring this to fruition and show people that something new and great can happen, and it doesn't have to be the same old thing. So, yeah. So the basic idea with the competition is we're going to try to get to the highest possible speed in the 1.5 kilometer track, and then of course you have to stop before the end. And then there'll be a foam pit at the end. So you might recover some pieces of your pod. But the idea is to accelerate. You'll have a big screen showing the speed of the pod as it's going through the Hyperloop. There's going to be a big crowd, I think, particularly since it's in LA. So I think there'll be a lot of people watching. So people will see the speed, get up to some crazy number, and then they'll be watching it break and see there'll be a lot of tension. Is it going to break in time? I think it's going to be a really exciting event. So I'm looking forward to it, and yeah. So once again, thank you for all your efforts, and I can do a bit of Q&A if you'd like. Okay. So yeah. So yeah, I guess just fire away. Questions? Yeah.
What inspired you to make this?
So what inspired me to sort of do the Hyperloop thing? First of all, I want to acknowledge the help of great people at SpaceX and Tesla who worked with me on it. But actually, what inspired me is I was stuck in LA traffic, and I was about an hour late for a talk, and I was thinking, man, there's got to be some better way to get around. So at first, I had the idea that I had actually made no sense and wouldn't work. But I kind of shot my mouth off at the event and said, yeah, I've got this idea for a new form of transport that I think would be really cool. And then I thought people would just not ask me about it in the future, but then they did. So it's like, oh man, I better come up with something that actually does work. And then, like, we actually only came to a solution that we thought would work maybe 2 days before the date that I published it. And I just basically put it on the website and did 30 minutes of Q&A. And then it just went bananas, like it went super viral. I wasn't actually expecting that to happen. So I just wanted to do what I said I would do, which is write the paper. So. Yeah.
The initial white paper had air bearings as the proposed levitation subassembly, right? But obviously, right now, we have two camps. We have maglev and we have air bearings. Which one do you prefer? Still the air bearings, or do you go with maglev?
Okay, it's a good question. So, when you consider the system as a whole, what matters is whatever the end thing is built that people actually use. The cost and the reliability and the utility have to be really as good as possible. So, really, the fundamental physics and economics should drive the true solution. And I'm not sure we know what that is yet. And that's really what we're doing here. This is a journey of discovery to say what is the right solution. I mean, there is also the wheels camp. I should mention, but I actually think it sort of depends on if you have a lot of twists and turns in the track, and you essentially are limited on G's, then wheels would actually make the most sense for such a track. If you have a really straight shot and you can go really long straightaway, then you may exceed the speed that wheels can really handle. So overheat the wheels or have them not function very well. So I think actually for windy tracks it would probably be wheels, and then it's sort of up in the air as to what it would be for a longer range track where you really try to push the limit. Because ultimately you could go, I think transonic, in the tube. Yeah. And transonic wheels probably questionable. Sure. Let me ask questions from over there. Yeah, so you can just yell at the door.
Hi, I'd like to ask a question about the competition itself. Why has SpaceX changed the rules 1.5 weeks before the design weekend?
We're just trying to make it difficult. I think there was just some. Overall, and then I'd said there may be some tweaks before the actual competition, because we really want, as I said, we really want this to be something that you could see an evolutionary path to a real system. Real Hyperloops that could be deployed around the world and used by millions of people. So, for the competition itself, we want to make sure that because it's a 1.5 kilometer track, there's certain things you could do to kind of game it, but it's like, okay, that really wouldn't work on a 200-mile track. So we want this to be something that is where the ideas are extensible to practical use. Yeah. Sure.
Okay, so us here, we're here working on the pod. What can we do to help the people that aren't here, like people in the live stream asking, what can they do to advance the speed at which the pods come out, and when do you think we can see the first Hyperloop in action?
Well, I think the tests on the 1.5 kilometer track I think are going to be fairly interesting. And then I think that'll be pretty exciting and get a lot of attention. And then maybe we'll try to do a longer track, like a 5 kilometer track. but I'd encourage people that are interested to sort of just join the competition, just generally sort of support the idea of new forms of transport. Even if ultimately what gets built is something that's quite different from what I wrote about in the paper, I think that would still be great. If we're making people's lives better, getting them to places conveniently, with more safety and faster, it's just. I think I really like the idea. Like you could live in one city and work in another city, and you can move fast enough that you can actually do that, and it frees people up. It gives them just gives people more freedom. So.
If you had to change anything in the document, what would you change?
If I had to change anything in the document, well, I guess I would probably, like if somebody was going to build a working Hyperloop, and try to make it work, I would advocate starting with the simplest useful system. So I'd probably advocate wheels and and then you can sort of say, okay, it's working. Essentially, if you're trying to create a company, it's important to limit the number of miracles in series. And so you want to start off with something that's the most doable, and then expand from there. At SpaceX, we started off with what we thought was the smallest useful orbital rocket, doing about roughly 1,000 pounds to orbit. And it's a good thing we did that, because in the beginning we really didn't know what we were doing, and the first 3 rockets didn't work. And if we'd tried to do something much bigger or more complicated, then we probably would have run out of money and died. So we barely made it as it is. So that in general, I think, is good advice for people creating a company. Start with the minimally useful system, something that you think is still compelling, but then leave future technologies for future upgrades. Yeah. Go ahead.
Hi. The world sees you as a visionary. Have you had any thoughts on the extraterrestrial application of the Hyperloop?
On the application of the Hyperloop?
Yeah. Like maybe we can use it on the Mars?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah, actually, on Mars, you basically just need a track, because on Earth we've got the air density is quite high, but on Mars it's 1% of Earth's atmospheric density. So probably you just need. You might be able to have a road, honestly. Go pretty fast. But it would obviously have to be electric, because there's no oxygen. So you'd have really fast electric cars or trains or things. Yeah. Electric aircraft. All right, sure. Well, the competition. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think I have a good feeling about this. I think that the work that you guys are doing is going to blow people's minds. I mean, they really have no idea that this level of sophistication going into pod design, and then, like I said, we also want to probably get some work on what's the most economical way to build the test track. Because things get complicated over long distances, where you've got the landscape can subside and rise a little bit, and you have earthquakes and things. So I think, given this level of enthusiasm, there's no question we're going to have another Hyperloop competition. I think it's going to get better and better. And, yeah. All right, okay, go ahead.
Do you see the first Hyperloop being built in the U.S. or overseas?
I actually don't know. I mean, I think wherever it gets built, it would be great. I mean, yeah. The thing that's really going to convince people is if they can take a ride in it. So wherever it's built, it needs to be something that gets used a lot, where ideally the economics prove out, and people like riding it. And wherever that's done, I think those are the important criteria for it to expand more broadly and be used widely throughout the world. I came up with the name, yeah. Well, because it was, yeah, I guess it was sort of a loop, you know. You go back and forth, a loop. And I thought if you, you know, in the limit, as it got more and more sophisticated, you should be able to go to hypersonic velocity. So it's sort of a hypersonic velocity tube. Yeah. Go ahead.
Will the part be made in China?
Well, the puppy made it might be. I mean, I'm just keen on seeing it happen somewhere. I think it's just, you know, it's exciting and inspiring to think about new forms of transportation or new technologies that make people's life better. Wherever they happen, I think it's great. And as soon as it happens, I think somewhere, and people see it really works out, I think it'll quickly spread throughout the world. So just try to get people in the back a little bit. It's quite. One bit of advice? I would say if you want to do a lot of dry runs with your pod, so in competing, try to do as many, you know, make sure you test it out very thoroughly, and in as close to the competition conditions as possible. So that I think that's the most likely thing to lead to success, because it's amazing how much how even a small thing that goes wrong, you know, can take something that would have been maybe a winning pod, but ends up in the crash pit. So, yeah, way at the back there.
Does SpaceX or you personally have any plans to back one of the Hyperloop companies in the future?
Well, we don't have any specific plans to back Hyperloop companies. Right now, we're just trying to, in general, support the idea and support innovative thought in transport. So it's possible we would back a team, but we're trying not to sort of favorite one organization over another. We're trying to be as neutral as possible and just generally be helpful. So maybe over there. Next great idea. Well, I have been thinking about the vertical takeoff and landing electric jet a bit more. I mean, I think I have something that might close. I'm quite tempted to do something about it. But, so. How do I convince people my ideas aren't crazy? Well, actually, that's generally what they thought. Actually, in starting SpaceX, they definitely thought I was crazy. Like one of my best friends compiled a long video of rockets crashing and made me watch the whole thing. And there's some other friends of mine that had been involved in a rocket startup. They said it was a terrible idea. But I kind of thought that we had a really tiny chance of succeeding anyway, like maybe like on the order of 10% or something like that. So this wasn't. So it said, if people say it was probably fail, I was like, I would agree with them. And it was very close. I mean, we just barely made it with the fourth launch succeeding of SpaceX. So. But yeah, I think ultimately, seeing is believing. Like seeing physical hardware moving and doing useful things, that's what convinces people. So, well, either one of you, I guess. Do you have the same question or different question?
Mr. Musk, I'm a Tesla intern, and my question is like, so I'm from Delhi, India, and like there right now, like they have a odd even a rule whereby cars are not allowed on the streets, like for like 2 days in a week or so, and like right now, like the amount of like pollution is like intense. So right now, like can like like the actual Hyperloop idea be there like in countries like India where there's desperate need to kind of get rid of cars, like as in gasoline cars, not electric cars, because because I stand for Tesla. So do you think something like this can happen in countries like India?
Absolutely. I think as soon as it's shown to work, and shown to work with safely and that the economics are good. I mean, it is important to bear in mind both the physics and the economics of a system like this. I think it would get deployed all around the world, and certainly in high-density cities like Delhi. But I did forget to mention on the ideas front, which is I think this is really a very simple and obvious idea, and I wish people would do it, which is build more tunnels. Tunnels are great. It's just a hole in the ground. It's not that hard. But if you have tunnels in cities, you would massively alleviate congestion. And you could have tunnels at all different levels. You could probably have 30 layers of tunnels and completely fix the congestion problem in high-density cities. So I strongly recommend tunnels. Yeah, since you're right next to him, yeah.
Hello, Mr. Musk. First of all, we're so delighted to have you here at A&M. I'm a liberal arts major, and I'm a huge nerd, but whatever. But my question to you is, you have a history of starting pretty innovative companies. First started off with PayPal, and then now you're known for SpaceX and Tesla. What was sort of like the formative moment in your life that made you go, okay, I'm going to do these huge, amazing, awesome things?
Well, I didn't really think I would do these things. I just knew that I wanted to be involved in things that would had at least the potential to change the world and be at the forefront of technology. So, I was basically going to be working on advanced energy storage technologies for electric vehicles in grad school at Stanford. And then the internet came along, and it's like, well, I could try working on sort of a new form of ultracapacitor, which was what I was trying to develop. But then I wasn't sure whether success was one of the possible outcomes. So maybe it would succeed, maybe it wouldn't. But then the internet was really something that was going to change the world, and most people outside Silicon Valley didn't even know it existed. So I thought, well, I want to be involved in the internet. I can help build a few things there, and then get back to electric cars later, which is what happened. And then on the space thing, the SpaceX didn't actually start out as a company. I was just sad that we had not sent people to Mars. So it actually started out as I want to try to fund a sort of small philanthropic mission to Mars to send a small greenhouse to the surface of Mars. So you'd have the furthest that life's ever traveled, the first life as we know it on Mars, and you'd have this great money shot of green plants and a red background. So that would be something that I think would get the public excited. And then I thought if the public got excited, then they would give NASA more money, and then we could continue the dream of Apollo. That was the intention. And then as I learned more and more, it became clear that unless there was a fundamental improvement in rocket technology, that there really an exciting future in space was not possible without fundamental improvements in rocket technology. In order for us to be a spacefaring civilization and out there among the stars, we need dramatic improvements in rocket technology, in particular, reusable orbital rockets. So then I tried starting SpaceX to solve that problem. But like I said, with a low prob, I was like, that's probably going to work. But then for the philanthropic mission, the greenhouse to Mars, I was 100% certain of losing the money that I put in there. So being only 90% likely to lose it for SpaceX seemed like an improvement. Sorry? Go ahead. That's great. Wow. Yeah, it's cool. SpaceX has got a big test facility, or rocket development facility. It's not, depending what you consider far or near, it's not that far from here. So we've got a big development facility in McGregor, so I'm there quite a lot. Yeah, always have a good time. Yeah, I think the world economy will move in cycles, and we'll have recession and boom and bust times. I think generally, working on something new and exciting gets people fired up to take action. It could help a little bit, but I think generally one should always expect there's going to be a boom and bust period in economies, and in recession times everything seems gloomy, and then in boomy times everything seems amazing. But really it's kind of a sine wave, Maybe. All right.
From what you have seen so far from students, do you plan to involve students more in the SpaceX project, especially when it comes to launching vehicles and everything?
Yeah, would certainly.
We need a promise.
Sure. Well, I think SpaceX and Tesla are always looking for great engineering talent. So I would definitely encourage people to apply if they're interested in working on rockets or electric cars or batteries. Sure, I'll answer maybe 2 or 3 more questions, and because it's actually, you know what? There's like 12 hands over there.
Hi, Elon. Our team will be going to competition weekend, and we won the Subsystem Safety Design Award. Will you sign our design award?
Okay. How many of these are there? All right. You know what? If anyone who wants it signed, bring it back, and I'll sign it. So, all right. All right. Just a couple more questions. All right. Okay. We're in the back there. I'm just going by density of hands. So, okay. Go ahead. Sorry? Talk about the team that works on the interior of the Dragon capsule. Well, we're building the interior to look nice and feel futuristic, and yeah, it needs to feel like a real spaceship. What? Okay, go ahead. Sorry?
How do you stop companies from, owning the infrastructure of the Hyperloop and then basically becoming a monopoly and not being able to pay 5 years down the line?
Well, I don't think there's any. well, hopefully there's more than one company that builds Hyperloops. And as long as there's competition, the competition is good for innovation. And ideally, you'd want an industry where there's at least 3 or 4 entities competing. That, I think, tends to lead to the best level of innovation. Because any company that sort of stays stationary with their technology will be exceeded by their competitors. All right, let's ask do one last question? All right, maybe I'll do a few more questions. Yeah. Falcon 9 Heavy is supposed to launch towards the end of this year. I'd say, maybe late summer. Do you think it could see Mars? Could it send something to Mars? Okay, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Even Falcon 9 can send something to Mars. So, if Falcon 9 could send it, I mean, I don't know, maybe 3 tons, 4 tons to Mars. Falcon Heavy could send probably 12, 13 tons to Mars. Yep. Okay, that would be, I would be here for a long time. I have to decline the selfies because it'll be like 4 a.m. before I leave otherwise. Sorry? No. Thanks. Yeah.
So you say that man will be on Mars in 9 years.
Hopefully.
Where else do you plan to send man? Venus, Europa? What are your plans after Mars?
Well, I think we'll send men and women, but Venus would be Venus. I wouldn't recommend Venus. It's a hot, high-pressure acid bath. But Mars is, Mars is very doable. The moon is doable. You could do some of the moons of Saturn and Jupiter. And potentially asteroids. But I think the most important thing is to create a self-sustaining city on Mars. That's I think the critical thing for maximizing humanity's likely the life of humanity. I mean, how long will our civilization last? If we're a multi-planet species, it's likely to last a lot longer. And if we have a self-sustaining city on Mars, that's going to create a huge forcing function for the improvement of space transport technology. And then that could ultimately lead us to go beyond the solar system. So that's the, yeah. But I think we, yeah. All right. I'll have to take that as my last question. Thank you for coming, and I think you've done an amazing job. All right.